If the freedom movement is the only thing standing in front of us in New York City,
foreign or domestic, who do you serve? You serve the state. You serve the New World Order.
episode 22 with brother Don Q. Welcome, Don Q.
Thank you, my brother, Mighty Fuzz. It's an honor to be here again, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today's going to be a great one. I have been so excited. I have been borderline harassing you to come on because I know you got the goods. Today, hopefully, we spill the goods on the farming and the commercial farming. I'm very excited, brother.
Excellent. No, me too. Me too. And this has been a long time coming for me also because, again, working behind the curtain in the farming industry, being able to kind of see how these, the big corporate monsters that we kind of face in America, how they move and shake, what's happening, what laws are being passed. Like I shared with you on the phone, it was hard for me to understand why God put me in this position, why I was here in my profession and growing the way I was. But to kind of see things moving and changing now, it's refreshing. It's like, okay, now I know what's going on. Now we're going to be here for the good change. So just exciting stuff on the agriculture level.
Super exciting. So we have a population that they go to if they're in cities. On every corner we have bodegas and delis, and in the city, in the smaller towns they go to their Walmarts and Targets for their food. The food, we are all dependent on these stores to bring us food. Can you go through the process with commercial farming and how this kind of comes down from the ground to these stores real quick? Can you break that down?
Yeah. So like you and I have discussed before, the mom and pop farms have kind of gone the way of the South. They exist a little bit more on the West Coast where you can't have so much dominant acreage. But for the most part, west of the Mississippi, you're dealing with big conglomerate farming, big monopolies, 10,000 acre plus type organizations. So they're going after your suppliers, your food suppliers, your Walmarts, your Trader Joe's, all of those stores across the board. There, you got your farmers growing for those subsidiaries, those contracts to get you those products into the store. So you got your local farmers on the ground that are, chasing that dollar as far as how much acreage can they put out, what crops are they growing, what does that market look like, and then on the other side you got the contracts from Walmarts, from the Ralph Foods, from the Kroger's, just all these big conglomerates that you're also, deciding if you're going to compete for. Can you supply 20,000 pounds of lettuce per week for Walmart? That's part of a contract stipulation. And it doesn't necessarily have to fall just on your farm. If you have connections with other big groups, you would contact them and be like, look, I can supply the lettuce for 4 months out of the year. Can you do 4 months out of the year? Yeah, Don, I can do the other 4 months. Then we go find another guy in Texas or something to do the other 4 months to supply Walmart with head of lettuce for the year round on their shelves type thing. So in a nutshell, and I know it was real quick, but it's farmers to your shipper packers, to the suppliers, your Walmart, your grocery stores, to the consumers, to fork and table, as we like to say.
So there's a network of farming. So there's commercial farming happening on many different farms, and they're working together to make up for the whole season.
Correct. Yep. Filling contracts, either working together, making sure, selling if you have extra commodities of something. So say you grew, 200 acres extra of romaine, and another farmer in town is coming up short on a contract for Walmart, and he needs those 200 acres. He'll come find you, purchase those 200 acres, at a really fair, if not a increased price, so he can fulfill his contract with Walmart, so he could keep it for the next year, keep his organization growing. So that's a neat thing about farming, is there's still a lot of communication on the ground floor. A lot of these farmers are, close friends with each other because of the nature of the business, having to kind of help each other, and so-and-so purchasing crops from each other. It's just kind of the name of the game.
I love it. So are there relationships with these farmers, or is there like a management company that works in between you guys? Or are you guys working directly farmer to farmer?
No, it's directly farmer to farmer on the ground floor. That's what's exciting. And again, I know we'll get into it more in the show on the hope side. that hope foundation of our food industry. But that's one exciting thing that I know, in another conversation you and I are having, we were comparing agriculture to the medical industry and how they kind of mirror each other, almost identical. But that's the exciting thing on the ground floor of farming, much like, your basic good doctors and communities. The farmers are their own little network. They talk to each other, they communicate, they help each other, let each other borrow tractors. If so-and-so has an issue, most of the time it'll be, his competitor or somebody, he's growing against that lends a hand. So there's a real community-based community relationship, if you will, in the agriculture community that exists. It's just beautiful. It's wonderful. And if you can think about it, just like everything else along the chain of command or the chain of distribution, if you will, the further up the ladder you go, the more faceless and nameless the corporations get, the more the relationships are there. They're just contracts. Walmart needs 20,000 heads of lettuce. They'll pay this amount. There's no relationship there. The farmer on the ground floor just decides, okay, yeah, I can supply Walmart with that. I'll go after that contract. But on the ground floor, the guys, doing the growing, worrying about the crops, the day-to-day operation, there's still a strong community base there. There's still a patriot base. There's still a good group of American farmers that really communicate and really work with each other. And that's optimistic in the hope bracket for me, because it's neat to see that big corporations, tech and everything hasn't come and ruined that. There's actually, amazing relationships on the ground floor that are still taking place to this minute, to this day. People, you letting each other use tractors, grow crops for each other. Just a lot of good community still happening in the base in the agriculture world.
When we say at the level that you're doing farming, this type of commercial farming, is this like when it comes to like your farm? Are you working with many farms inside of that network itself, or is that just literally your farm producing a certain amount and then another farm working with you? Are there multiple farms working together as one unit?
Well, and that's one thing maybe we should define also, because it might be a little different. Actually, I know it's a little different on the East Coast, especially in the New York area. You still have a lot of generational farming. Here on the West Coast, because of the way the land is and the availability of land, you can start a farm 1 year to the next. So, i.e., I was part of a co-op growing some crops about a year ago. This year, we didn't do anything. We let the land go back to the leasing company so somebody else could pick it up. So you have a lot of that going on. So it's, year to year, crop to crop. If there's a big shortage of, let's say, onions in the United States, you'll have a bunch of guys, a bunch of young cowboys come down here, start leasing ground and just start farming onions. They'll figure out, some right people to talk to, some consultants, and they'll start getting onions in the ground. So it's a year to year, season to season thing.
Wow.
On the West, yeah, you can just lease ground and go after it. Yeah. So like I said, yeah. So like coming in this season, there's a shortage of watermelon growers. So anybody that was an entrepreneur or even had an idea how to grow, you could go find some land from a big conglomerate, some investor group that has a bunch of land, lease the land from them. Rent your tractors or borrow tractors. Get your ground worked, purchase your seed from a seed dealer, which is the side that I'm on. Get your chemicals lined up and get your crop in the ground, and then grow your crop for the year. You'll get your water and all that stuff. Harvest it, get your shipper packers situation set, and you're off and running. So it's neat on that aspect that if you have a little bit of money backing, because that's the problem now is the industry's gotten so large. So you're going to need some money to play in this industry, so to speak. But if you can get some backing, you can make a run at it. And, if you do it for a year or two, your third year, you're now gaining more ground. You're an actual farming organization that quick. So, there's generational farming where that farm's passed on to children. It's been in the family for a long time. Right. Those are typically the smaller farms. What we're dealing with, the big conglomerates, it's just like anything else in the corporate world. You have a TJ Maxx pop up, and then you have a Kohl's right across the way. That just came out of nowhere. It's kind of how agriculture is going right now. It's guys that want to take the weight on of the season. Growing watermelons is very hard. Growing onions is very easy. So you'll gauge that. Okay, there's more money in watermelons, but there's less risk for me if I do onions. So you get a lot of that year to year, a lot of different people coming in, trying different stuff.
So you bring up that you're on the side of seeds and chemicals. So you're the supplier, or you work with the
Yes.
supplier. Like what? How does
Yes,
what's your position with that?
yes, I'm on the supplier side, so we're a global entity. So we service, every continent in the world with our seed varieties. We're competing with the big conglomerates, the big seed companies that you've heard about in the media. The Monsantos, the Syngentas, all of those companies are who my company competes against in selling vegetable seeds. Each company will be different or have strengths in different commodities. So one company might be really strong in head lettuce, but they don't do watermelons or they don't do cantaloupes. So that's where another company will come in and be like, hey, we're strong in melons. We don't do lettuce. So they'll sell their melon seed. But at the end of the day, the farmer's just looking to get the best product. But at the same time, it has to reach his needs because again, I want to make sure everybody understands watching this. There's three types of seeds for vegetable seeds available to you in the entire world. As a matter of fact, you have your hybrids, which are kind of the new design, if you will. There's a lot of flack, a lot of misinformation about them. But if you're concerned about hybriding, think of hybriding like it's selective breeding without any anomalies. So you're going to hear hybrids and you'll hear heirloom. Heirloom is a type of seed that, one, it flowers and it can regenerate seed for itself, so you can get a crop from it again. Hybrids will not regenerate. They've changed that in the selective breeding. They've removed that. So the hybrids will give you a little extra seed, but hybrids don't give you uniformity. So say you grow a hybrid corn or a hybrid tomato, you're going to get a variety of shapes and sizes, where a hybrid selection seed, you're going to be uniform across the board. So again, Walmart is on their contract. They're looking for a specific type of tomato. So if you were to grow heirloom or a home garden type thing, Walmart's not interested in that because they can't replicate that specification for their tomato across all of their stores. Because you don't want, quote unquote, the soccer moms, the consumers coming in the grocery store and seeing a tomato that is flat and big, and then go to another Walmart and see a big round one. They like the presentation of uniformity. So that's where hybrid seeds kind of come into play for farming. You can be more dialed at what you're looking at. And with hybrids, you can be really specific at the diseases you need to focus on. Because that's another thing that people seem to forget when we get caught up in the GMO and we're afraid of food conversation is, you wouldn't have certain vegetables, fruits, especially leafy greens, available to you in your grocery store without hybrid breeding selection and disease resistance. Once a crop's grown in a field for, let's say, 4 or 5 years, the bacteria and the disease in that field has now gotten so intelligent to that crop that very few pesticides and chemicals will work to defeat it. It'll usually take over the crop. So crop rotation, soil rotation, and again, selecting that right seed with that right disease resistant allows a farmer to have a product that's brought to your stores fresh, that gives you, the consumer, those nutrients, those photons, everything that you need from those vegetables and fruits that you're buying. So again, hybrids get demonized a lot, but just to simplify it, hybrid is basically selective breeding. They're breeding for a special characteristic, a special resistance, that if they were to just do open pollinate or hybrid or heirloom, you don't get that consistency. And for farmers, especially on, if I have 10,000 acres of watermelon, so I'm trying to fulfill, let's say, Walmart and a Target or a Kroger's contract, I need those watermelons in those 10,000 acres to look as uniform as possible, because, Kroger doesn't want to buy all the small watermelons and Walmart buy all the big watermelons. They want a nice mix of everything for their consumers. So I need those varieties to kind of mimic each other, look as uniform as possible. Because again, to the consumers, they just want a fresh round watermelon at the store. They don't want a flat watermelon. They don't want one that looks like a football. They want a nice round, hard, just that's what happens for the farmers kind of caught up in this game, is it becomes about uniformity and what those contracts from these big conglomerates, your supplier stores are looking for.
Don't want to gloss over. So you were explaining the soil. You're saying so now bacteria gets there and kind of becomes immune to the actual sprays and stuff. Like they
Yes.
actually are able to still the bacteria to live even though it's sprayed with chemicals.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's just like anything else that we hear about in that realm. It's able to adapt. And again, it's It's if you don't do crop rotation, right? Again, so if you were a grower on the East Coast and you knew Walmart needed head lettuce, and every year you just grew head lettuce because you wanted that contract, eventually by year 4 or 5, your soil will become intelligent enough to what you're doing, and the countermeasures you're taking on the backside to morph and evolve into a way to be able to take that crop out. It's that's why crop rotation and soil reclamation is so important right now. It's one of the most important things that people are working on, is because it's something that you kind of forsook, with in the name of big chemical and everything else happening. The farmer kind of forgot about the ground floor foundational stuff, that the soil actually matters, the life, the nutrients, the minerals. You can pay for them all you want and inject them in the soil and you will get a crop. But there's something better down the road if you can reclaim that soil, if you could start working it now. And yeah, it could be a 2-3 year project and it's very heavy on the pocketbook, but the rewards down the road are tenfold. And that's what a lot of people are figuring out, is you can take the quick buck now, or you can pay for it lightly and reap the benefits later of a lot better system. So the soil is a very intricate part of farming also. Yes.
So, all right. So did this start happening because we started spraying, or did this was always like this and you gotta kind of refresh the soil even if you weren't spraying? Is it
crop rotation? Crop rotation's always been a thing in agriculture. It was something I think they discovered. Agriculture is the oldest industry in the world. I know a lot of people like to paint another industry as the oldest industry in the world, but agriculture really is the oldest industry. And they've gotten intelligent with it. If you think back to how they used to do it, before big chemicals, they used to always, they would do the three sisters. They would partner plants growing with each other that helped each other. So you would grow sweet corn with beans underneath, because the beans will use the sweet corn stalk as a holder, so it can climb up and produce more beans for you. And then you plant squash on the bottom. The squash covers the entire ground, so that protects you from any disease, mold, or mildew coming in. And the squash is so resistant to all that stuff that it doesn't let it penetrate the soil to get to the sweet corn and the beans. So there used to be a lot different practice in agriculture. And then obviously, just like we talk about with the medical industry, along the way came big pharma, and big pharma tried to find their way in. And big pharma came into the industry and became, a staple by just making things really convenient. That's all. So instead of having to work the soil, know the soil, grow 3 different crops that kind of benefit each other, with big pharma in the mix, you could target that direct contract. Hey, Walmart doesn't need sweet corn and squash. They just need beans. Why aren't you growing just beans? Well, I can't just grow beans, because if I do, I get these pests, I get this disease, I can't control it. Well, that's where big pharma came in and was like, oh, okay, perfect. I have a remedy for that. I'll sell you this chemical. I'll sell you that chemical. Now you can go and grow all of that as long as you use my chemicals, because if you stop using my chemicals, those pests, those diseases, that mildew, everything that you were trying to fight before is just going to come back tenfold. And big pharma was very good at how they integrated these chemicals into agriculture, because now we've gone so far down the road where a lot of good new generational farmers, good people with good hearts, have kind of lost that old practice of farming in the name of, just making things convenient. They know how to grow with nitrate and fertilizer and, all these pesticides and chemicals, Roundup to control their weeds, to help with their yields, because that's all that they've been taught. That's all that they know. But we know, looking back in agriculture, going back in history, that there was a better way. There was a time when, you couldn't just blow and go crop after crop. You really did have to take some time and recondition your soil. Let it sit out in the sun, bake it for a couple months, and get that photon sun moving through it, cooking the bacteria, killing the mold. In the name of chasing the dollar, big agriculture has fallen victim, just like the big medical industry, and forgetting its roots, forgetting how we started, how it all began, and how we really grow to benefit the environment around us, how we become better for the people, not just chasing that dollar. Because just like any other industry in the United States, when you dangle that carrot and you dangle it for that long, generations, you're going to lose a lot of the good practices. You're going to lose a lot of, the old school techniques, if you will. And that's what we see coming back in agriculture now. We see big pharma losing their place, much like the medical industry, right? I mean, how many of us have talked about alternative medicine or different type of things in the medical industry, bringing back natural remedies. And I mean, it has to be 100-fold, brother, from what it was 5-10 years ago, right? And the information people have now and the things that they're using in their daily diets, it's night and day difference. That's happening in the food industry also. It's just slow to move. You're slow to see it because big pharma did have a grip on it. It's much like, we want all of our doctors and our medical industry to change and start addressing things and stop worrying about the symptoms and find the cause of the disease, right? And it's slowly, I believe, starting to happen. We're starting to see good doctors come to the surface. It's the same thing in agriculture. You have so many good farmers, good-hearted, just American blooded, beautiful people that they know they want to produce a product better for the Americans. They want food that really enriches our lives, that's beneficial for our bodies. And
100%.
and they want to they want to be able to pay their guys and put food on the table. But big pharma had such a grip on them that they're scared of the growing pains they're going to have to go through to get away from big pharma. But there's enough people now knowing that change is coming and it's not going anywhere. And you're starting to see people change the way they think, look at their ground, look at their crops, look at what they're doing in a completely different light. And that's good enough for right now. If we got that part, if we're able to, as humans, to intelligently rise to that level where we start addressing what's going on, what's the cause of this issue? Why are we seeing all of these childhood diseases, this obesity that's plaguing our country? What are we doing with our food supply that other countries aren't? Why are these things banned in countries that aren't banned here? These things are coming to the forefront, not just for the consumers. These are coming to the forefront for the people on the ground floor, the people growing your products, the salesmen selling those products. These things are starting to become the forefront for them. And that's the thing. That's the change that we need to see. That's the good stuff happening that, you might not see it on the news. You might not always be able to feel it every day. But with that ball moving down, moving up the hill, rather, it's exciting.
And I really like the way this is being laid out because we're showing the viewers, you're talking about the nuts and bolts. We are in the weeds, no pun intended, of your field. You've given the reasons why the chemicals are put. You've given the reasons why certain seeds are used. You have explained all that. Now, me and you had a phone call recently, and you went to a conference in Texas. And you were told some groundbreaking information that there's going to be some great changes, but we might go through some growing pains. Do you want to start unpacking that?
Yes. So right now, and again, that you could start with simple Google searches or whatever search engine you have, and just kind of put in, California pesticide laws, what's happening in agriculture, on fertilizer and agricultural laws. Because not just to pick on California, but that's where this started for me. I went to a seed conference in California, and these seed conferences are a collection of seedsmen, chemical guys, farmers, shipper packers. You'll have representatives from Walmart there. Everybody intricately tied into this web of agriculture goes to these conferences because this is where the legislative stuff's talked about. This is where any new innovations in our industry, any exciting stories or big wins. These are the conferences where these things are discussed. And I went to the first one in California probably about 6 to 8 months ago, and at that conference, that was the first time that I heard about California banning pesticides. And I remember sitting in the room, brother, and this is again, this is something I've shared with you offline. I'm grateful to be in this industry and I love it. But I told you, my life energy, my putting my life work towards something, I wanted it to be something that I believe in wholeheartedly, something that I can get behind, that I can drive. Everything I do in life, from being a father to a small business owner, these are the things that I look for, things that make me passionate, that allow me to be real. That's why, I'm a fifth generational salesman, but I have a hard time being a salesman with products I don't believe in, right? So that I can't sell somebody something that I don't believe in myself. And these are, that's how it's been for me. So coming in this industry, I knew it was a monster. I knew this thing was huge. And I was curious at where my place was. I knew there was a lot of things happening that didn't sit well with me, how the seed was treated, the chemicals used there, the chemicals used in the field. And then again, doing our research down the rabbit holes that we have. I implore everybody to, put in go to YouTube, go to your Rumbles, go to these different channels and watch some videos on these big conglomerates, your Monsantos, Syngentas, these different companies, the lawsuits they have across the world, the chemicals that they're using. There's a lot of scary pieces, a lot of scary information. So as I'm, going to these conferences and getting more integrated into the agriculture world, I just didn't know where my place was going to be. I didn't know where God was directing me. So again, 8 months ago, I'm in this California conference and the legislative session starts. And again, this is the first time I hear about California banning pesticides. So I kind of dive headfirst into it. I start doing some research, trying to understand, what was happening, where this was coming from, and how it was going to affect my industry. Because when this was said at the conference, you could almost feel the wind leave the room, brother. I mean, everybody but me was not smiling in there. I'm sitting in the back room smiling. Did I just hear pesticides are getting banned? So I'm kind of smirking. Everybody else in the room acted like, their balloon had got popped at the party. They were super upset. So that intrigued me also, so I did some more research. And right now there's currently 2 bills in California, one that's going to be implemented by 2025, that's going to ban some very heavy pesticides, or rather seed treatments that we're doing to the seed before it goes to the soil. So that's one thing in the seed industry you guys need to know. It's kind of like anything else. If you buy a set of tires, from Michelin, it'd be like Michelin, putting some special tire wax on the outside, so you'd never get, they would never not be shiny. It's an extra sales thing. Every seed supplier will do anything you need to the seed. We'll treat it, we'll coat it. Right now, the biggest treatments, most seeds you get going to ground, they have what's called thiram on it. If you do some research into thiram, it's a very nasty, evil chemical. It's red, this powdery stuff. You get it on your fingers. You immediately want to wash your hands because it's just not. I mean, all the bags, all the chemicals have the little skull and bones. You just know it's nothing good. But every single one of our seeds in the conventional seed side, not organic, but the conventional farming side, and that's one thing I want to illustrate. Conventional is treated seed, fertilizers, nitrogen, chemicals, pesticides, everything like that. Organic is not supposed to be any of that. No treated seed, no chemicals, no, it's supposed to be just organically grown. And they do have some tricks up their sleeve on the organic side, but nothing like the conventional side. So in the conventional side, the big word is thiram. Thiram is what you treat with seed. And basically think of thiram as just giving that baby seed a fighting chance in soil that can be very hostile towards that seed. So diseases, different things. They want to make sure that seed doesn't grow. Putting a coat of thiram on it, even though thiram's a nasty chemical, like I said, gives that seed a fighting chance to create that radical, push out of the soil, and bring a crop to you. Now, the science side says that the thiram never leaves the shell casing. It's only there to protect the plant in its first development stages. Then it washes out in the soil and it's gone. That's what the science side says. And then you have, the consumer-based side, or, the tin hat wearers, if you will, guys like us. They're like, no, that doesn't sit well with us. Why do we even need to start with the skull and bones chemical to begin with? Why does that even need to be there? That's, again, this is something that, was always a question for me, always needed to know. So back to this conference in California, thiram is being outlawed in California. The EPA is no longer going to certify it. And that's the exciting thing, too, that I was sharing with you, brother, is these aren't just local farms, organic farms trying to implement things in their communities like, hey, we're not going to use pesticides because it hurts our operation. These are big conglomerates that we know their names, FDA, EPA, right? They haven't been our friend. They haven't always looked out for our best interest. But when they move and shake, or rather when they wield that big stick, everybody falls in line. There's no dancing around. Like I said, if my organic farm did something, but somebody's organic farm down the street didn't do the same, it wouldn't have a ripple effect to the consumer. It wouldn't be a big win. When it's coming down from these big conglomerates to where everybody has to follow suit, no matter what type of growing you do, no matter what size you are, that's where I get kind of intrigued. I'm like, wow, this is not how we normally move and shake. The evil machine that we've been a part of driving, literally the tracks on the wheels to make this thing move. These aren't the normal things that this machine has done. It doesn't look out for our best interest. It doesn't try to punish big pharma or take away revenue. like we're seeing right now in big agriculture. So again, from that one in California, we start to hear these laws being passed in California, Thiram being banned, and that's exciting. And California is going to kind of be on the innovative side of that. Again, not everything points to that direction, but there's California has done some good things. So fast forward to that conference that I went to in Texas that you and I had the conversation about. And kind of the same thing. It's a different group of gentlemen, different group of growers, shipper, packers, because we're in a different region now out of California. But it was the same legislative conversation, the same things, the ripple effect from what
So it's
California.
coming. It's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, and it's not going anywhere. And that's one thing. In this one in Texas, there was a few gentlemen that stood up with some heavy rebuttals as far as hey. To keep it simple, hey, you can't do this. This will basically put us under. And the rebuttal back to those gentlemen was, if that's the case, you better learn to create a different business or look a different direction, type thing. It's not what's coming down the road in these changes is not going anywhere. It's only going to keep steamrolling forward. And like I said, for you and I, and for so many people that go down different rabbit holes, the conspiracy theorists, people that are just having a hard time with understanding the battle between good and evil and where that table is. Are we winning? Are we losing? What's it look like? Some of these things that are happening behind the curtain in big industries that, again, food and water it should be the utmost important for us as far as where they're sourced. And I mean, all we want is good food and good water. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's, fluoride in our water and nasty chemicals to be used to grow our food, the question has to be why. Why are we doing this? And if there's not a direct answer, if there's not life saved over lives injured by these products or any type of sensible conversation we could have, then we need to ask ourselves why they're here. Why do we continue to implement them into our society? And that's the exciting thing that I keep seeing happening behind the curtain is the question why are we doing this, which was never there before, brother. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the why was never there. It was the can we get away with it? Could we do this? Is this profitable? If we did this, could we, reap the benefits, right? That you could feel the evil. You could see it in the conversations when you go to these conferences, when you rub elbows with certain groups, you could see it and feel it. Everything was festering off this evil energy of more, consume. It doesn't matter the victims along the way of this road. We just want to capture the palace at the end. Now the conversation's changing. Now the conversation in every industry, and especially in the agriculture industry, isn't about chasing the dollar. It's not about, can we do this? Can we get away with implementing this toxin on these plants? Will it have some detrimental effect on our consumers? Now the question is why? Why are we spending thousands of dollars on chemicals before our crop even goes in the ground? When if we do these little quick remedies or work with nature or time our crops a little different, everything changes. Everything's beneficial for us. We don't have to be in Big Pharma's pocket. And this is why I talk about that it relates for me back to the medical industry, because I've had some great conversations, especially with local doctors here that I have good friendships with, that are saying the same thing. They're like, Don, before the big C-19 pandemic, we never really looked at the V schedule. We never really looked at the ingredients. We never really thought about it in the same light. But now that we've come through that storm, how do we not look at these things? How do we not look at these companies that we're going to, cry foul about here and say that they did us wrong and they lied to us, and then down the road just continue business as normal, continue our relationships? There has to be some question of why. And that's what I mean. It's exciting to see it happening, brother, from agriculture to the medical industry. And I think it's happening in so many different avenues, but those aren't my avenues of profession. Agriculture is, and it's just exciting. It's something that keeps me filled with optimistic hope for the future for my children, because if we're implementing these changes now, so again, when your grandfather was, great grandfather was growing crops, big chemical didn't have a hold, but when your father came into their generations, that's when big pharma really grabbed a grip. Well, now it's our generation's turn. Now we've seen what's happened to our great grandfathers. We've seen the toxic poisons, the sugar, the food, the chemicals that have led to just an early demise, dementia, whatever avenue we want to go down. We're able to witness and see these things. And more of us are asking that question, why does it have to be this way? Is there a better way? And a matter of fact, if they did it 100 years better than we're doing now, how do we look back at those generations and think that they were less civilized than us or less technologically advanced. They're actually less prisoners than we were. They actually lived a lot freer than we did. They actually got to implement things that actually benefited their communities and changed their families' lives. These are fires that are burning in our generation now. These are things that are burning for us. These are things that farmers on the ground floor, that doctors that are coming into the medical industry are beginning to ask. We have to recognize this as monumental change. This growth out, this great awakening, whatever we want to talk about or whatever you want to call it, it's not moving along anyone's timeline. It's not going to happen tomorrow. There's going to be no Band-Aid ripped off in a few hours. This is going to be a journey that we go on together so that we never have to come back. Because again, if you just picked me up and closed my eyes and took me to a destination, I never knew how to get there. I just know the destination, and I'm grateful to be at the destination. I'm glad you took me there, but I don't
know how to get there. I have no. And Don, what are gonna? Here's the $1 million question of what. So these changes are coming, and what should society, the people watching, what should they expect as the reaction of these changes in big agriculture?
You should expect some bumpy roads, some growing pains. And with those growing pains, like you and I talked about, brothers, should come a little bit of self-responsibility. One thing I'd love to throw some kudos to is your urban farmers and your home garden farmers are. I read a magazine article about a month ago that talked about it being almost 500% increase year over year. And we know, again, coming out of, all the pandemic stuff and everything, that there was, a certain mindset that came out of there, more of what's the right word I'm looking for? Where people really did care about having a local garden, having a garden in their backyard, these type of things. But it didn't stop there. It didn't stop in 6 months like a lot of things. It wasn't a fad that ended in a year. Every single year, it continues to grow. Every single year, we're figuring out how to empower ourselves, empower our communities, empower our neighbors by growing some crops. People are understanding the therapeutic nature of it. These are some things that we're going to have to remember as we go through these growing pains, because I think as big pharma continues to let its grip go, you're going to see things that are going to, evil's going to use it their advantage. Price hikes. You're going to see, maybe when you go to the store, you're used to seeing a bunch of different commodities of stuff that might change for a little while. You might not see so many things on the shelf. You might relate it in your mind to food scarcity and something's happening. I implore you to do your research and make sure you understand what you're looking at and what you're seeing with your own eyes, because we might just be going through a growing pain scenario where all those crops have kind of left the shelf, but it's because that smaller farm's coming about, that new farmer that's taken hold. He wasn't able to make a crop this year, but next year he's got it figured out. Next year he'll have that crop ready. The industry's catching up. Everybody's coming. So like I said, right now we're going to go through some growing pains with having to get rid of big pharma and big chemical. But on the backside is that beautiful farming that we're all asking for, products that are brought to the shelf with, the high nutrient value. There's no chemicals. There's no, crap that's going to be, forever in your body type stuff. Those growing pains, I implore everybody to just take a little weight on yourself. Like I said, and I know everybody can't have a garden at home or something, but even if it's just growing some herbs in your kitchen, which everybody can do, just start implementing and thinking that way, because the more people do that, the more our communities will battle through these little bumps and bruises that we'll have to go through. Because just like you see in the medical industry, to break away from big pharma is going to be very painful, because so many people have built their minds on that system and how it works, and putting Band-Aids on these wounds that just don't make sense. Again, treating symptoms and not the cause, even in agriculture. So there'll be some growing pains. We'll have to work together. Like I said, evil will use it to their advantage with price hikes and all of these things to try to scare us. But at the end of the day, the good things behind the curtain are happening. It's the flip side.
You think they're gonna start like when things are not shown in the store, that's gonna push other people to start going, oh, that's a opportunity. It'll start
Correct.
opportunities for smaller farmers, he's saying. So in
Correct.
one hand, I'm going to go to the store and this specific thing I'm looking for is not there. And on the other hand, there's another guy going, oh, that's not in the store. Let's start these businesses, these small businesses.
Yes.
Who do you think is pushing this legislation? Why all of a sudden do they have the change of heart from greed to more nutrient dense food? Who do you think is pushing this, brother?
There's that's a two-part answer for me, because there's the deep rabbit hole side that I personally believe, and then there's just kind of that simpler answer, and the simpler answer is the consumer. But what's interesting about the simple answer is the simple answer ties into my deeper conversation and deeper thought process with it, rather, that because the consumer is changing and asking for a different product, and also becoming more savvy to what's being done. Like I said, Thyram and these different chemicals, nobody knew what any of these things were 5-10 years ago. Now they're almost becoming, household names. People really know what this stuff is, understands the repercussions of using it. The consumers are driving the change. If we want to just keep it simple, right? It's if the greed and the evil on this side is only trying to capture our energy, i.e. money, then what the consumers do, where they care, the things that they look at and address, has to be addressed on their side. Whether they synthetically make it or they hide it and backdoor you on it, like they've done with some food products and different things, where Kraft says they'll remove a certain ingredient, but they just relabel it or call it something else on the ingredient list, right? They're still chasing that dollar, that energy. The consumer is driving it. People are asking for better products. People are asking for organics. Again, 5-10 years ago, when organic comes on the scene, every farmer I knew, everybody around was laughing. They're like, "Oh, this is snake oil." Everybody that's getting in the organic game, they're gonna lose all their money, or they'll be out of business in 2 years type thing. Just doom and gloom. And then 5 years into it, the conversation changed. It's like, wow, organic's not going anywhere. And matter of fact, I'm getting $12 a bag for my onions, and he's getting $26 a bag for those organic onions. Wow, maybe I should think about growing some organic onions. And then the next year he grows some organic. So this ripple effect has happened, but it was driven from the consumers. It was driven from the base of people just realizing we're not just going to feed our children crap. Just because it has a label of, Kraft food or Nestle on it doesn't make it good. As a matter of fact, the consumers and a lot of people out there, because of the information we've got, the filter's actually reversed. Knowing it comes with that big conglomerate name probably means there's something horrible, and it probably means there's some filler or something that you don't want. And that's, again, that's amazing to see, because, for me, I again, that deep rabbit hole, I think there's good people, God-fearing people in high places, all the way down to the ground floor, like me and you, brother, that are doing every single thing they can to resist evil, everything they can to thwart this agenda that has been rolled out for us, and they're being successful. And what's so funny is, for me, my personal belief, I think this evil that rolled out this agenda had no plan for bumps along the road, for changes, for 180s that they had to do, because you see it in the way that they squirm, they move and shake, almost reusing, recycling old, just old tactics and things they do. And it makes it even more obvious to everyone paying attention. And so that's the part where I just get excited. There, like I said, the consumer walking down Walmart, brother, going into Walmart 10 years ago, and you were there with me, it was, go to the music section, see what new music's out, go to the, there, you had this consumer driven mindset, brother. Probably the last 6 times I've gone to Walmart, because now I'm making it a thing. Now me and my wife think it's a game, because I'll come back from Walmart and I'll be like, baby, I just saw 5 people in Walmart reading the ingredients list, standing in aisles. Bro,
Right.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, bro. I
Even at
love
Walmart
walking.
too. Think about the consumer there. Usually not to judge people going to Walmart, but
Well, still, no matter where it's at,
that's
no matter
awesome.
what. Yeah, just wherever it's at, as long as that consumer is reading that ingredient list and asking the questions, why does everything have high fructose corn syrup? Why is there, these paint thinners in children's cereal? Just all of these start to formulate a thought process, and that's good enough for now, baby. Like I said, I know everybody wants the Band-Aid ripped off. We want tomorrow our
It's better this way, bro. And look, the longer we go along, you start realizing why. You see the wisdom and why it can't be written off. We have too many people that are, some people are overlapping each other in the information, and look, right, even and things have to be rolled out slowly. I mean, there's so many people on the line. You can't just pull something that will
Yes.
drastically affect millions of people. What kind of regulations are coming down on the farmers? What kind of pressure through the last decade have you seen a drastic difference on regulation in California before these new good changes are coming? What type of regulation did they have on you guys? Were there certain chemicals that you had to use through the state? Was there anything like that?
Not necessarily on the chemical side. Like I said, the government, or i.e., like I like to call it, the evil side of this plan, they knew that the farmers were already, or you were going to be, in the pocket of big pharma with your chemicals and everything. Again, whether through weather modification or spraying or whatever's happening out there, we're seeing diseases, mildew, and things in areas that we've never seen before. Farmers being plagued with things that they haven't been plagued with before. So that kind of causes a sense of urgency, right? And pushes you into the pocket of big pharma. That's one thing I've seen in my industry, right and left. One thing from the governmental side that has been very detrimental to the agriculture industry is obviously the labor side of everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I want everyone to get paid a fair labor, but there's been an intricate part here in the United States of labor workers, for especially in agriculture, and not from any set demographic or anything. There's a mix of everyone out there, but the labor working force in general, being able to work, again, not even, a lot of people get upset because, if the farmer's not paying them 25 an hour, they're not making a fair wage. Actually, that wasn't true at all in agriculture. They actually used to do what's called piece wage, not too long ago, where, let's say you picked a bucket of lemons, that you would get $8 for that bucket of lemons. Now, if you ran back to the tree and filled up that bucket and came right back, that's $8. But if Mike over there on the lemon tree only got 1 bucket an hour, he's only making 1 bucket an hour. It's you get paid based on how
Oh, okay.
hard you work. Piece labor,
Right.
and that was beneficial for the farming and labor world out here, because if you're going to get my crop out of the ground quicker, I'll gladly pay you more. I'll gladly pay you, well, because you're helping me get to market fast. You're helping me catch these prices. But now that's what's happened with the labor. The labor's gotten so expensive, and the flip side of it is also too, the labor has gone in different directions. Now McDonald's pays 25 an hour. So why would you want to go pick watermelons out in the field when you can go, work at so the agriculture world has been heavily hit by wage increases, by the government implementing that, and almost to the sense, brother, in the sense that they were literally trying to eliminate farms. They were literally trying to eliminate how people operated their systems, because again, whether it was housing and building up the places for the workers, the seasonal workers, and again, these people they knew the routine. They knew how to go up and down California, chasing the different crops, making a living, making really good money. But they knew how to do it. And when all of that changed and all these government regulations and just everything came into play, and it has nothing to do with just wages. It has to do with so much more, housing, medical, everything. It became such a heavy effect on the farmer that implementing, money and plans and projects to reclaim your soil or do all that had to go to the wayside. So with all of this changes in governmental regulations actually caused the farmer to look for the path of least resistance. What was the
Right.
easiest way for me to get this crop? Oh, okay, well, if you don't want to hassle with XYZ, just put this chemical on it, and that eliminates all that labor you would have had to do prior. I know I'm kind of dancing all around it, but that mindset's what took over agriculture. But it starts with governments on one side of the fence, brother, and big
Yeah.
farmers on the other, and they just try.
Because I
to
was
pin
trying
you
to
in it.
figure it out, but I'm like, if I'm the government, right? Like when you do it for like animals, right? They want to
Yes.
do the shots, or they
Yes.
want to make sure certain regulations on how they're being housed. But with agriculture, it's kind of an open field. It's a little different. So I'm assuming it would be like seeds or chemicals, or like now what you're saying, the wages. I didn't even think of that. So I'm glad you said that on this. Don, we're coming up to that hour, and I need for the viewers to understand what exactly can they do to prepare. Like, you are a professional in this field, brother. A direct answer. If you being concerned for your fellow neighbor, what do they need to do to prepare? Not to be scared, but to prepare for what's coming.
Well, and that's going to be that simple answer that we always hear is just don't be afraid to educate yourself. Don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time and watch a YouTube video on a home garden. I mean, that's what's just so amazing about this time of day, brother, is that you literally have professionals, you have people in the industries, in every industry, every facet of society that are taking the time to show people the right way to do things, to share some knowledge. These are things that we didn't have before. A lot before, especially back in history, was a lot of trial and error, right? You had to try things. If it didn't work, you knew how to correct it. This is a new day. This is where information's at our fingertips. And I know we know that. We hear that every single day. We're almost taking it for granted now. So I implore everybody to understand agriculture, understand how to grow food. Don't be afraid to test it out for yourself, even if it's just a little planter jar in your windowsill of your house. Um, just start playing with some things. Start understanding, that the soil nutrients, the water retention, the moisture, everything plays a factor in how that seed grows. And once that seed comes out of the ground, that's just one part of it. But it's one of the most exciting parts because now that plant's really come out of the seed. But nurturing that plant from being a child to a teen to an adult to when you harvest it, these intricate things from growing plants in a garden, they're all tied into, everything in life. It's life in real time. So I just implore everybody to
I
educate
love that.
themselves. Don't be afraid to, learn how to garden. If your neighbor or somebody in your community has a garden, be very supportive. Ask them how you can help. Most of the time, especially like in my neighborhood, there's a neighbor down the street with a garden. He just needs somebody to take the food because he's grown so much food that he can't consume it. He can't, jar it enough.
That's
So
a good deal. That's a
yeah,
good deal, right?
it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. So
Yeah.
I just implore everybody out there is don't let the fear drive you. Don't let the marketing tactics of big corporations of this evil agenda, sway you and let you on that emotional roller coaster. Today's world, we're starting to, again, if you start with that question, why, take that question, why is that ingredient there? Why do we use this? Why are they doing that? And educate yourself on it. And you'll be surprised at what you find. You'll be surprised at the information you see usually isn't the way you think it is. Everybody's not lock and step with Satan. It's usually really good, intricate, amazing people like you on the ground floor trying to work in a system that somewhere up that ladder, the devil does exist and he's going to make sure to get his share. But we need to remember to empower each other on the ground floor. And like I said, for the viewer, for the consumers, the people sitting at home that are not in the agriculture industry, that are wondering what they can do, and if Uncle Don's got anything good to leave them with, make sure to educate yourself on how to just grow a simple plant, the fundamentals, the soil, the water, the nutrients it does need, the sun, just all the fun things. There's so many neat things, and it's life. It's beautiful. You learn to be a good farmer at home. It relates to you being a good dad. It all feeds into
Yeah,
each other.
man.
As strange as it
Bro,
is,
I
man.
think it's one of those things that was stolen from us. It would be like the
Yes,
equivalent of like not knowing that we could run or something like that. We should be able to
yes,
provide food. The floor is rich. God made the floor, where you
yes.
can grow food from the and me being from the city, it's so drastic that like hunting, growing food are so foreign to me, right? And it shouldn't be like that as a human, right? Like especially as a man, right? I should be able to provide, protect, and I believe that when I say that, it's like, I'm speaking for a lot of people that are in the city. It's almost like a bird that doesn't know, that's in a cage and doesn't know it can fly, and the importance of learning how to grow food. Don, do you think there will be somewhat of shortages specifically in the cities?
I think so, but not on the level that everybody's not going to get what they need, that the nutrients aren't going to be available. I just think some of the niche things, some of the things we're taking for granted, brother. I mean, you go to any grocery store, any corner, any city in America, there is an array of fruits and vegetables available for our consumers right now. If that gets dialed back a little bit and it looks a little more scarce and it looks, you're getting just your staples, your potatoes, your onions, your broccolis, just kind of some staple crops. Um, don't freak out. Don't be scared. Don't think that it's an end all be all or that something terrible is coming down the road. I'm starting to look at these things, brother, as exactly what they are. They're just growing pains that we're going through. Something good, something better will come on that backside. So like I said, right now the shelf's filled with all kinds of colors and beautiful things. But if the growing practices to bring them to those shelves are having detrimental effects on our brothers and sisters, it's on us, especially somebody like me behind the curtain, to make that change. That change isn't going to be overnight. It's not going to be beautiful. Matter of fact, you're not going to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to go on this journey with us. But on the other side, that's going to be a shelf with products that we believe in. Shelf, a product that you're okay. You know it's going in your child's body, that next generation, and it's benefiting them. These are things. These are desires that are starting to resurface with us. They've been buried with, all the gimmicks and the toys and the gold and the money and the material items. The
Yeah.
devil has buried all of these beautiful characteristics that all of us possess, but they're starting to come out. They're starting to show themselves. One thing I want to give a big hats off and a big kudos to my brother Anthony at Ungovernable Project. Something like that, right? Think about that. Going into your grocery store, Walmart, how many beef tallows are on the shelf? How many cooking products, oils are on the shelf? Our brother in this fight with us, in this truth fight, had a fire start in him to where he was like, you know what?
He made the change.
I can put my energy behind something. I can bring a better product, and look at him go. The sky's the limit. That stuff just fills me with such excitement.
Because it's one thing to complain about it. It's another thing to get active. And that's, we're really gonna nail that one down when we start our new podcast. I'll be saying this for the first time. We are starting a new podcast. Myself, Don Q, Anthony Graffio, Script Keeper, and Joker. It's going to be great. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be funny. I know it's going to be funny. But to speak on Anthony, which I will be on his show in the morning tomorrow, he said, you know what? I'm sick of complaining. I'm going to make a product. And if we all do that, it touches on what you were saying, right? Oh, I don't see that on the shelf. Oh, why don't I take responsibility? Right.
Yes.
And that's how we fix this. And that's the beautiful thing. And me and you have always been on the same page with that from jump, action. You take the information in, the Great Awakening, and then you get active. When do you see from your, and this will be the last question, from your expertise, when do you see we will be on the better end? Is this a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year season to be on the better end of nutrient dense greens, fruits, and vegetables?
Brother, that's another one of those hard questions to answer, because I can give, a simple answer that I know near and dear, that it's about 3-5 years we're going to really start feeling and seeing it. But I'm telling you, it's here right now. I'm telling you, we're seeing and feeling it right now. I mean, from the social media to the grocery store to, the restaurants that have popped up, even in my little town that, are trying to drive either, whether it's grass-fed burger, whatever the little marketing ploy may be, you can see everybody starting to move and shake different than ever before. Every single day progressing forward, we're going to start seeing significant changes. So I think in about a 3-5 year span, brother, right now, if conventional farming, so that's agriculture with heavy chemicals and all the treated seed, compared to organic, and this is actually real numbers. So 5 years ago, organic was 5% of farming in the United States. Today, it's somewhere around 25 and 30%. In a 5-year span, for organic to move into that type of percentile is unheard of across the board and everything. I give it another 3-5 years to where I don't even think it's going to be 50-50, brother. I think it'll be 60-70% organic, 30% conventional. And then from there, it's just going to keep steamrolling. Because what will happen is when you go into the grocery store, you and Miss Crystal, you're going to see organic marketed to you. You're going to see organic products. You're not going to choose conventionally grown, even with that dollar difference price tag, because that's one thing we're all figuring out now is you could pay now or pay later, baby. You got to make that choice in your mind. And people are starting to realize, you know what? I'd rather pay for an organic product. I'd rather pay a little more now for a healthy product, because if I don't, I'm going to pay for it down the road type mentality. And that's what I mean. The consumers will drive this. And I think this road that we're on, 3-5 years, you're going to see changes implemented that are going to shock people. That, again, it's going to be beneficial. Now, not to go long or anything, but we're going to have to watch how big pharma and evil moves and manipulates, because they're not going anywhere, baby. They're just going to learn to get a little sharper. But as long as we keep our filters up and we keep, we control the gate of what gets in and gets out, we're going to start seeing changes that we didn't think were possible before. Rather, things are going to come to importance to us that we just didn't, we took for granted before. And that's going to be amazing. So I think 3 to 5 years, we see significant change, brother.
Sounds like a great awakening, my brother. Where can I know you got it since we had the last conversation? You have a new Instagram page, new handle, and Twitter. Can tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm under now Professor Don Q 44. Again, just kind of sticking with the Don Q profile name, but just like so many of our brothers and sisters out there, it's funny. I know for a lot of us, we build up to 20, 30,000 followers, and that's everything. And they take those accounts and it has this emotional effect on us. But one thing I've learned is just keep coming back in the ring, baby. Just keep coming back and engaging with your brothers and sisters, whether you have 100 followers or 10,000 followers. Keep engaging, keep fighting that evil narrative. Keep, for me, and I'll just speak on myself. I love making little videos with some music in them and stuff. Just whatever lights that fire for you in this battle, keep coming at it, because evil's feeling it, brother. We're having detrimental changes, detrimental effects on their plan that they were not anticipating. And as long as we keep our foot on the gas, baby, and keep rolling forward, these changes from agriculture to every industry are going to start happening right and left, because we're going to drive it. We're not going to change, a better tomorrow in the exchange of gold in our pockets today. That day's dead and gone, and that's good enough for me, brother. I'll take it.
I love it, man. I love it. Don, thank you so much for coming on. Can we have you back on if any updates come in the farming industry? Can we have you back on and just educate the viewers?
Yes, 110%. Yeah, and I'll keep, and that's the exciting thing is, I think I have 4 or 5 conferences coming up before the year's over. I think it's going to be the same thing as the ones this year, where it's just a lot of wind leaving the room and people being upset that their way of life has to change. The practices and the way that they've ran their companies is going to have to change. They're going to have to learn to become better. Those tough growing pains, and yeah, you're going to have farmers walk away and just be like, you know what, I was going to retire in 10 years. I'm going to retire now, because I don't want to go through these changes. I don't want to have to implement this stuff. I don't want to have to do more work. But the next generation's coming about. The next, somebody's going to fill those shoes. That's why we might go through a little bit of growing pains, baby, but don't lose hope. Don't lose that, that piece that keeps driving you every day. There's a better tomorrow coming.
I love it. Don Q, thank you so much. Episode 22, Don Q, and we're out.